get to load my presentation and turn it into a big deal.
All right, back to Chairman McMillan to continue. Recognize Miss Joy.
Who we recognize now? Again? Where's my Snickers bar? Ms. Sweeney, you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Proclamation 15-05 covers the regulations for national wildlife regulations. Every year, the Fish and Wildlife Service hands down recommendations that they see fit for their national wildlife refuges for us to proclamate. And I'm going to go over the recommendations that I received from the Fish and Wildlife Service. On Hatchie National Wildlife Refuge, they recommend that the deer archery season has 7 days added to it. Also on the deer archery season, they recommend adding an area to the west of I-40 that has a season from September 26th through January 3rd, except for during the youth gun and the quota gun hunts. We recommend that for all the deer seasons, that there's a requirement added to harvest an antlerless deer in order to harvest an antlered deer. And the final recommendation for Hatchie National Wildlife Refuge is to remove the physical check-in requirement. Previously, it was required you take your deer to a check-in station. On the Tennessee National Wildlife Refuge, it's recommended that for the deer archery muzzleloader gun season to increase the quota from 75 to 125 on the duck bottoms unit. Also recommend to add a spring squirrel season that's same as statewide, and add a fall turkey season that is the same as statewide. On the Reelfoot National Wildlife Refuge, for all the deer seasons, it's recommended to add a requirement to harvest an antlerless deer in order to harvest an antlered deer. Also recommend on the spring turkey quota hunt to reduce the permits from 50 to 30. And on Cross Creeks National Wildlife Refuge, the recommendation is to add a spring squirrel season that is the same as the statewide season. And this concludes the recommendations for the National Wildlife Refuges for Proclamation 15-05.
Does the commission have any questions for Ms. Sweeney?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chairman. Back up
Commissioner Cobb.
one slide, please, ma'am. We have discussed over the years about requiring antlerless deer before you harvest your antlered buck. And there's always been a problem with how we're going to regulate it and how we're going to check it. So now that it's been proposed at Reelfoot, how was that question answered?
These recommendations were passed down from the Fish and Wildlife Service and only apply to the National Wildlife Refuge. Discussions in our agency did not occur in coming up with these recommendations.
How would you propose to do that? I guess, Mr. Hamlin? I know you got told, but is there a logistical issue with requiring an antlerless before you killed your buck? If not, that might be an option later down the road for statewide. That's the reason I'm going there.
These, like Joey said, these are National Wildlife Refuge recommendations. And they have a lot of does out there, and people really enjoy doing it. And
I'm not looking for justification. I'm just talking about how are you going to make sure they kill the doe first and then the buck?
They check online. Let's check them out. No, I can run anybody's number, and if they've killed a buck, I can look and see, or they can look and see if they've killed a doe first. However, there might be a lot of does that are killed on paper that aren't really killed, though.
I'm just clarifying that it's not a problem.
No, that's,
Okay.
this works for them.
Any other questions from the commission? From the public? Okay, we need to do a committee vote concerning Proclamation 15-05, hunting seasons and bag limits on select national wildlife refuges and other federal areas. Do I have a motion to carry
Make
that?
a motion to pass Proclamation 1505.
Do I have a second? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Proclamation 1505 carries for committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Commission. I'd like to introduce Joe Benedict to go over the Proclamation 15-11 for dove season recommendations.
Thank you, Ms. Sweeney.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I think you'll find this Proclamation 1511 refreshingly simple and straightforward compared to what you guys have dealt with this afternoon. So the recommendation is regarding Proclamation 1511, which deals with dove seasons and regulations. And you might recall that last year we were able to extend the dove season based on some federal framework changes so that now there's a 70-day season and then a 90-day season possible. And we expect the 90-day season to be the normal season or the standard season during most years, as dove populations are very high and we're expected to be so for a while. So we're here today to basically bring a few clerical changes excuse me, to the proclamation. The proclamation was amended during the meeting last fall, and so the changes weren't caught at that time. Again, we extended the season from 70 to 90 days, and so where we put those dates, that's what you folks adjusted, and that's the reason for these changes. So you can see the strikeout language in black on the left side. During the first segment, we wanted to clarify that it's a 28-day period. The last period is 39 days rather than 41. And the other change is in the bottom column there. We believe the intent of the commission last year was to begin the season on November 29th, which is a Saturday, and then use the remaining 39 days. And so this year, if we left it November 29th, the season would start on a Sunday. So we believe the intent of the commission was to begin on a Saturday, so we've changed the wording to begin the last Saturday in November and end 38 days thereafter, which would be on a Tuesday. So this will allow the commission not to have to adjust the dates every year to adjust for the calendar. So the other part of the proclamation that we would like to change are these references again here in the black strikeout language that refer to the early season federal frameworks and then the date of typically in mid-August. Wanted to share with you folks, it's a good time to do that as well as the public. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as we know, are ultimately in charge of setting the migratory game bird seasons, and historically has used an early season and a late season process. And so they're doing away with that, and they're going to a one regulation meeting per year. So the reference to the early season frameworks after this year won't be appropriate anymore. So these are the changes that we recommend to the dove season proclamation. Mr. Chairman, I have a couple other informational slides whenever you folks are ready.
Are there any questions about dove season? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the opening date, do we have to wait till noon to start the hunt?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it just didn't say.
That's the only day we have to wait till noon.
That's what I thought, okay. Any questions from the commission, from the public? All right, let's move on then.
Okay, just a couple informational slides. I thought, well, while we had the podium here, we'd share these with you early. As I mentioned previously, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is changing the timing of the migratory bird regulation cycle. And so I wanted to share with you what to expect this year as far as harvest regulations. So you'll see in the first bullet there, I can move my cursor here, the 2015-16 waterfowl seasons will be set with the current and historical federal process of using an early and late season recommendation. And you'll see the early seasons there, the woodcock, snipe, crow, and the September waterfowl seasons. The late seasons, which are duck and goose seasons, we expect we'll have a recommendation for you folks in August on those seasons. The 2016-17 season, which is a very long, it seems like it's a long ways away, under this new process, the flyway biologists, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biologists, and the flyway process will use previous year's breeding population information to set the season. So what we're doing is we're basically moving the beginning of the migratory bird regulation cycle backwards, or I guess you could say forwards, but backwards several months. So the flyby meetings will be in September, where we'll begin the process for the following September's hunting seasons. So you'll see me here in August to talk about this coming year's waterfowl seasons. You'll also see me in March and April, where you folks will finalize the 16-17 season. So it's basically, we're doing 2 sets of regulations in about a 1-year period. So I want to share that now so it'll kind of sink in case folks have questions for you. So the other piece I wanted to share with you, for about a decade now, a lot of conservation organizations have been trying to lobby to increase the price of the duck stamp. And the duck stamp, those monies are used to purchase wetlands for waterfowl production, which also benefit a lot of other wetland wildlife dependent species. These are required of waterfowl hunters 16 years of older, and since 1991 the price has been $15. Of course, we all know that in 1991 the price of gas, the price of bread, the price of milk was a lot cheaper than now, and so the purchasing power of the duck stamp has gone down drastically, or rather it just has not increased with inflation. And so in December, the president signed a bill that increased the cost of the federal duck stamp that will go into effect this coming year. I have seen a few news articles about this, but it's not really widely known yet. So I think when folks begin to go buy their duck stamps here in July, it may be of a shock to them. So that's why we wanted to share that with you now, as well as the public. And I just put a note there. There's a lot of places you can buy federal duck stamp. We have asked, I guess for 2 years now, that we be allowed to sell them through our total licensing system. We were not selected again this year, but again, you can buy these online at some of these other places. So we're still in the running for that, and one day soon we hope to sell them on our website.
Can you explain to me why we're not allowed to sell federal duck stamps, but Walmart is?
I really can't get in the mind of the National Duck Stamp Office. I know initially there was a suite of states. I think there's about 13 states now that can. I think they were trying this out as a potential option because, again, everything's going digital now, and I think they're just trying to build some capacity with that. I'm not exactly sure. I can't speak to all that, but I have no doubt that in a number of years, every state will be doing this. So, but again, and here's the funny thing, you could actually go to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission's website and buy your duck stamp from them.
Arkansas too, I believe.
Yeah, so even though we don't sell them, it's another step for hunters, but they can go buy them. They can actually buy them at duckstamp.com if they want to pay a $5.95 shipping fee. So
I hope that when this comes out, that it's been increased from 15 to 25, that the Tennessee duck hunters understand that the commission and the agency had nothing to do with that increase. We need to make sure that's plainly stated.
More of an educate me question. In the dove season's regulations, we don't call out that we begin at noon opening day, nor did I see it in another proclamation we're about to read. Where does that fall?
I believe it's in the proclamation.
Which one?
The noon opening, 1511. I don't have that in front of me, but
And I may have overlooked it, so. You are correct. Thank you. Section 2.
I got a question.
My apology. Thank
I got a question on that. If we're only allowed, since we got to start at 12 o'clock on opening day, can we have the last day just hunt from daylight till 12 so we maximize our 90 days?
I don't think so. I think that's a federal law that we can't start till noon. It's not us, is it?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think in Virginia you can hunt any day before 12, can you?
States can be more restrictive.
Yeah,
as you-
it's
as you
much more
folks know.
restrictive.
I could check in on the noon opening day.
Yeah, you
if
can't
you'd like.
turkey hunt after 12. Okay. Are any other questions for Mr. Benedict concerning Proclamation 15-11 from the commission, from the audience? Are you through that we can vote? Okay, this will be a committee vote. May I have a motion for Proclamation 15-11 for dove seasons and regulations? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those on the committee that in favor of Proclamation 15-11, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, proclamation carries. Thanks. Thank you very much, Mr. Benedict.
Boy, I remember when they was $5. That's a while back. But if you go online and you hit that federal link, there's about 11 states, and if you got like a customer number built with another state, they'll allow you to buy them. I found that out while I was sitting in the duck blind. Yeah. What I'm gonna do is here.
Wait a minute. Did you go into the duck blind without a federal duck stamp?
My 17-year-old daughter, I realized she had turned 17. I'm sitting there 30 minutes before shooting light. I said, oh crap, I'm in trouble.
I'm just kidding you.
I got on my iPhone and linked up to my Missouri customer number, was able to buy her one. Worked out well, trust me. This is 1506, which is a manner and means of hunting, taking, and trapping. And this is basically a review of the preview you had back in April in Paris. Very minimal changes to this proclamation, basically for clarity and housekeeping. But underneath Section 1, legal hunting devices, have y'all had time to get to y'all's copy in your book, I hope? See, I wish wildlife liked me a little better. I could get on their pretty little slides. So next year I'm going to make that change. And I'm also going to bribe Joy into doing my presentation. But underneath Section 1, legal hunting devices, underneath 2, for clarity and understanding, we'd like to change that language. For big game hunting, arrows and boats must be equipped with sharpened broadheads. And for all other game, any points are allowed. Justification is it clears up our small game hunters that it's okay to use field blunts and judos to take small game. Underneath Section 2, prohibited acts. Underneath number 7, C, we'd like to amend the language to reflect explosive broadheads, and explosive broadheads are strictly prohibited. And that's as a result, there's a new product out on the market called Bow Mag. They come in 38 caliber and 357 caliber. You screw them at the end of your arrows. Commissioner Teague, you know what I'm talking about? I'm just kidding. Yeah, we just don't want them running around in Tennessee. And then underneath Section 6, big game check-in, underneath 1, it's about animal checkout. And just the last few words at the end of that paragraph where it says are gifted to another, and what that will do is help match what's in the hunting guide that we print up. And then underneath same section, number 4, we're going to recommend to strike that first sentence and that last sentence because it's captured in other section of the proclamation, and it's unnecessary language. And that's it. So any questions?
Are there any questions for Officer Ryder?
Move approval of 1506 proclamation.
Are there any
Second.
questions from the audience? All right, so I have a motion to approve Proclamation 15-06 in a second.
Yes.
All right, for committee vote, all those in favor of Proclamation 1506, manner and means of hunting, taking and trapping, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, proclamation carries.
Thank you.